Good morning and welcome to councillors, staff and any members out there in the public gallery. Due to COVID-19 restrictions regarding gatherings and the need to comply with social distancing measures, all council meetings will be held by video conference until further notice. Residents will not be able to attend meetings in person. Federation Council wishes to advise members of the public that council meetings will be live streamed so that the public may view the proceedings of the meeting in real time or later, and will be available after each meeting on council's website. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Bangarang people, and acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who now reside in this area. I extend that respect to elders past and present of the Bangarang Nation. I now call for any apologies and applications for leave of absence by councillors.
Mr Mayor, we do have an apology from Councillor Kennedy, who is away with work commitments as a result of COVID-19 restrictions, and his workforce is severely depleted, so Councillor Kennedy's off with his own business.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Would someone like to move that apology, please? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Longley. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Applications for leave of absence. There is a recommendation there that Councillor Kennedy be granted leave of absence for the period of 17th to the 22nd of August 2020, inclusive due to being away with work commitments due to an employee shortage because of COVID-19 border restrictions. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Longmire. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 30th of July 2020. Would someone like to move the minutes to that meeting, please? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Thomas. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Number 5 is disclosures of interest. There be no items. Number 6, the Merrill Minute. I'd just like to take the opportunity to first of all congratulate the leadership of this council and staff, the enormous amount of work that this council has been doing with the COVID-19 advocacy. In relation to media, council's working with other joint organisations, RAMJO, working with ministers on cross-border issues every morning with James McTavish, trying to look after our community, get permits to a situation where we can maintain some sort of economic viability within our council area. It's been very tough, but I believe under the circumstances our council has performed very well and will continue to do that. It's on a daily basis that we try and not only protect the residents and maintain the quality of our COVID plans, but we also we're well aware that we need to be mindful of our economy and the mental health of our ratepayers. So thank you very much, Council. I'd like to just note that and congratulations to all involved. Thank you, Councillor Wales.
Yeah, it's good to see her trying hard, Mr Mayor, because there are a lot of business affected, as you know, like for people who can't get to work, Mr Rowe, on the wrong side of the river. But so it's good to at least they know we are trying to help them as much as we can. So
absolutely, thanks, Councillor Wales. Councillor Thomas.
Do you want us to stand? Are we happy for us to sit?
I'm happy for you to sit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fine.
I'm in chamber.
sure, that's fine.
Yeah. I just really want a clarification of whether we were to stand or sit.
No, that's fine.
I just really wanted to thank Council for pulling together that link, because that link has actually provided a really great resource. So obviously, as councillors on the ground, I'm sure my fellow councillors would agree with me, you know, the amount of commentary that we're receiving amongst the general public. So you can actually either forward them the link via an email, or you can actually, you know, say, please go to the website and hop on the link. And then obviously, as we know, it goes to our community engagement team. So thank you to Council for pulling that together, because it's lightened our load, because we actually have that resource to for people. You know, it's just brilliant, really. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. No, it's been excellent. Councillor Longmire.
Yeah, if I may, Mr Mayor, the opportunity for council going forward, to explain, there is an opportunity, I think, for the Deputy Premier to be down on Thursday of this week. There's so many individual things that are happening within the realms of the Federation Council being how do I say it, awkward in suggesting that people that work at their local piggery aren't able to cross the river to work. That's an awkward situation. And another one that's come to mind of late is people over the river in Victoria that are just outside the bubble are not able to send their sheep to the Corowa Sheep Market, which is quite remarkable because I understand one of the exemptions at the crossing is freight. And so I cannot understand why people in Victoria, not far away from the river, are not able to sell their sheep at the Corowa sale yards last Monday. And when the opportunity was given to them to be able to find out and get a permit, quite stupidly, they're talking about, it was said to them that they'd have to take their sheep to Melbourne, fly them to Sydney and bring them back to Corowa sale yard. So this is the ambiguity that's happening out there, and it needs to be sedated and put back. And I think if Mr. Ballaria is coming down on Thursday, it'll be a great opportunity to explain some of these things that are happening.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire, and that's a good point. We, Federation Council's been invited and will be attending a meeting with the Deputy Premier, and that's all thanks to our local member Justin Clancy, who I'd like to say has just done an amazing job supporting all councils, taking our case to the state and stating, he's been very firm as to trying to get some easement for us. So yeah, that's very good. Thank you very much. Would if there's nothing further there, would someone like to move that, Merrill, please? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Thomas. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So now we'll move on to the General Manager's report.
Thanks, councillors. 7.1 is Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference. So some just getting some movement towards some possible motions that council could finalise by the September council meeting ahead of the conference, which at this stage is still presumed to go ahead later this year in the end of November. So there's a range of requirements that motions need to meet to be considered for the conference, but certainly Federation in the past has put forward quite a few, and some have got up and made the paper and then been voted successfully. So there's always an opportunity to consider where things are up to. So I've outlined for information and any discussion now or further into September some key areas where council wants to put our lobbying and advocacy efforts forward. So the recommendation is to note the report on the areas for possible motions and receive a further report at September 2020.
Thank you. Can I have a mover for that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
7.2 is a report on the ACCC water trading report. So the ACCC has released their interim report on the 30th of July, and that's available there. There's quite naturally a correlation between that and the Ramjo water paper, which goes into those areas as well, about looking for improvements across all aspects of water management. So that's just there for councillors' information. And Ramjo, we're seeking the council would support a Ramjo submission on the document, which would be lodged by the 28th, and we're having input into that. But certainly if any councillors want to make comment or that now or before the 28th, welcome to as well.
Could I have someone move that, please, that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments here, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
I just probably really highlight that Mick Keogh is actually one of the guest speakers for the MDA AGM coming up. So that's really exciting to have him on board. I've got a suggestion for that particular conference, but I will talk to it when we have that in our business papers.
Sure.
Okay.
I just want to highlight that he was, guest speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
Excellent.
Was there any further questions or comments, councillor? Councillor Longmire?
If I may comment in regard to the MDA annual conferences, there's probably the biggest list of guest speakers that I have seen over the journey, and that's been quite a while. And it's quite interesting to get the feel of it with the Ramjo report as a paper, which is a wonderful report, with the other one as well. So there's a little bit of competition in there. You sense that there is, but it's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd have to say Ramjo have been true leaders in this debate. Any further questions or comments here, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
7.3 does follow on from that. So that is the MDA National Conference 2020, which is being held by virtual conference due to COVID reasons. It was due to be held down at Shepparton this year, which would have been relatively close in accordance with the size of the whole basin, but nevertheless we're going to take advantage, the Mayor, myself and Councillors Longmire and Thomas as available. Naturally the council meeting falls on the morning of that second day, but we're going to take advantage of invitation from Albury City Council to meet in there and attend mostly the virtual things, but as outlined and for discussion now further if you like, but there's a significant array of speakers from federal, state, scientists, our own Bridget from Ramjo's introducing the water paper to the conference. So yeah, a range of things there for councillors to consider. Recommend to note the report and also separately, but part of the MDA's way forward is they've renewed their strategic plan goes out to 2025. So some councillors, including those ones mentioned, we've spent a couple of years on and off, including attending workshops about helping the MDA to put a new strategic plan together that best captures that organisation, where it's going and the challenges it faces as well in trying to bring a group that big forward. So just formally noting that has been to the board and they've endorsed that. So noting the MDA Strategic Plan 2025.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As my fellow councillor Longmire mentioned, the lineup and the calibre that is at this particular AGM is amazing, and congratulations to those behind the scenes who have got those, professionals, here for us. It's just a shame that we can't be in the room with them, but live streaming is the next best thing, and that's the strategic approach that we have at the moment. I just would like to, if you can consider Mr. Butler, in light that the second day is a clash with our council meeting, and once we get the agenda and the time frames, I was just wondering if there was opportunity, if there was a clash of times, if either we could all pop on and watch Mick Kelty or Mick Keogh, if they would happen to be within our, if there was that opportunity for depending on how long they went for, but I think it would just be a great opportunity for us all to hop on at that particular time and not just restrict it to the 3 or 4 of us. I just think the other councillors and our directors would find those particular 2 key guest speakers something they could absolutely, look at and learn from, all of us. If there was that opportunity, Mr. Butler.
Yeah, so
get that on the 15th.
We'll have a look at the timing of that. I understood that those key speakers weren't clashing with our council meeting.
Well, that's.
But yeah, if they are.
Even in the workshop afterwards.
Yeah.
I know that we've paid individual fees to attend, but
Yep.
I'm sure underneath the circumstances, and if we explained it to the CEO of the MDA
Yep.
and Mr. Patterson, who is our Shepparton Mayor, I think they would understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you may want to adjourn the council meeting for that part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was okay. If
Sure.
my other fellow councillors thought that was a worthy experience.
Yep.
Could I make a suggestion, Mr. Mayor, that possibly given the importance of that meeting, that we change the date for the council meeting?
Mr. Mayor, if I could make a comment, please.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle.
Yeah, we've changed the council meeting date 3 times already for this September, first due to elections and then not due to elections. I think we can continue on with our meeting as scheduled, and if the speakers aren't going to clash, then I think the business of council overrides. As important as that meeting is, the business of council needs to continue, and we need to make sure that we are conducting that regular business of council. So the council meeting should continue, and if we can view part of the MDA meeting, then so be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. And I think that's where it's at, really. We will be able to work in with the speakers. Most of that's on the first day, so it's all going to fit fairly well. And if we can create other opportunities, Councillor Thomas, let's do that. Did you have?
I just have one small
absolutely.
further comment. I just really need to highlight to ourselves, just so everybody knows, as part of this pulling together this strategic plan, that Federation Council, and especially our General Manager, Mr. Butler, was an integral part of this, because the basis of this strategic plan actually came from Federation Council and what Federation Council used for our strategic plan. So congratulations, Adrian, for helping the MDA to pull. This is a really significant document. I think too now, and I'm sure Councillor Longway would be on the same page. You know, you think about the Ramjo water position paper, and you think about this strategic document. Do you know why these are going to be so successful? Can anyone answer that? Because they're grassroots documents. They've come from the grassroots, they've come from community, they've come from volunteers, they've come from people who are passionate about seeing these issues raised to our authorities. So well done, thank you.
Councillor Thomas, I think I'd like to endorse that with a round of applause for our General Manager for the input.
Well done.
Thanks, councillors. Yeah, just quickly, following the format of the integrated planning and reporting that New South Wales have seemed to be pretty logical, because the MDA goes across the 3 states, and yeah, with the executive as well as the board and our own councillors, we sort of put forward that our model seemed to be, and our own IPNR documents are pretty well structured in that way, where you've got a long-term plan and you try and have your 1-year actions, and so it seemed to be pretty well taken up. And just on the Ramjo paper, the other day when we had pretty much spent a lot of last week with Ramjo, but and the Mayor as well, but having politicians from Justin Clancy, John Barilaro, the Deputy Premier, we had Andrew Constance, who's quite well spoken and quite outspoken in a good way as a Liberal member from down the South Coast, but and having those others as well, Linda Pavey, Paul Toole, having all them one-on-ones with Ramjo without even having to go to Sydney, you never would have got that before COVID and also before the water paper. So one of them made a comment that the water paper's given Ramjo and its councils the significance and the credibility of getting that foot in the door. And as Justin Clancy said, these sort of things should be happening, and we probably will commit to that if the polies can find that time, and we're not flying to Sydney, staying there and spending all this time and money for a half-hour meeting when you can just sit there and do it like that. So I think it's pretty positive. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Will there be any further comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
It's a bit of a water report this time, but 7.4 is environmental watering plan. So council been made aware that the MDBA, the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, has reviewed their environmental watering plan as required, and that's been done. I'm thinking it may have been an internal review. They've sort of come back with some pretty positive feelings about it all, and I don't know if that's also shared more broadly or not, but they've certainly given themselves a tick in that regard. And going through Ramjo, they didn't actually make a submission on this one, but just wanted councillors to be aware that's been undertaken, and we'll follow that along and see what that relates to, because that's an area of enormous focus by people that have lost water to the environment and communities, etc. So I just wanted that councillors to be aware of that review that's been done.
Thank you. Can I have a move for that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments there, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
This is a question without notice for our General Manager in regards to our environmental watering plan review. I was just wondering if there was opportunity, if we could just do some investigative work to see who's on this environmental water working group. I've just noticed that a lot of the advisory role will be uptake through the long-term watering plans, because obviously our watering plans are very much part of what, core business for a lot of our local businesses and beyond. So if we could find out who the stakeholders were on the environmental water working group, whether it's LGA representation, who encompasses that group, maybe that could be an avenue for future advocacy if need be.
Excellent, good question. I'll take that up and find out. We did have as part of the Ramjo briefings last week where we did brief. We did meet with the Commonwealth Environmental Water Holder. So Jodie Swearpack was called away at late notice, but she is the water holder. We had Hilton, someone, I'm sure we've met him at one of the conferences, but he spoke on her behalf, and I put those questions to him more so about how they felt the effectiveness of the review went, but didn't get much of a reply there. But certainly a really good point I hadn't covered about whether or not what the representation is on that group. Yep.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll put that one. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
7.5, so finally we're getting back internally. This is a report on Federation Council's merger implementation plan and the Stronger Communities progress report. So through Director Shannon's area, under that there's been an enormous amount of work through finance and across through projects, but that just continues on our finalisation of that significant funding that occurred over 4 years ago now. So rolling through extremely well reported and detailed about where that funding is going to. Councils have made different decisions along the way, rightfully to allocate interest here and there to make sure projects got funding to the original intent. So that's laid out there in detail for any questions or comments and for notation.
Thank you. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
I know these are further questions without notice for our General Manager, but I just would like to move a recommendation, or if I could, for this next, if we can't get a resolution today. I just noticed with our Section 355 committees, there's still an allocation there for expenditure. And where are they up to?
Yeah, so I'll probably take that as a question now and deal with that rather than to the recommendation.
Yeah,
if you
that
like.
would be fine.
Yeah, so the 355 committee review, there was a couple done. Joe could probably provide more information, Joe Shannon, possibly after the meeting if you liked, our director, but certainly been a review done both by our internal audit committee or the auditors as part of that around how they best align with the requirements now of the state government. There's a lot more focus on that. And then separately, we had a review undertaken by the consultants who worked on our integrated planning and reporting. So that's been to council only in a workshop, but it has dragged on too long around recommending certain committees become advisory committees, others get merged into one. So I contacted Joe the other day that we try and move that forward, like in the last half of this year, because it's just been too long to really rectify where those committees are up to, how they go forward. There's been some consultation with those committees by the consultants. Our staff are still going to meetings, especially the ones that are functioning really frequently, and councillors when they can as well. So there's obviously some committees that are really active and because they've got some funding essentially and they're delivering projects or working with us to deliver big projects on reserves, and there's others that are just probably dwindling along in the background that are needing a lot more focus and attention and support. So for things like the Urannah Aquatic Centre building, there's a committee around that town lake in town in Urannah. So there's really good decisions need to be made as to how we try and structure up the committees better. But yeah, it has been a bit too long. So we also got a motion where Councillor Longley put forward a while back that we urgently progress the finalisation. So.
Thank you. Was there anything further on that?
Mr Mayor, if I may, please.
Councillor Meagle.
Thank you. I'd just like to highlight the ambitious timeframe that the government set to have all those funds expended by June this year, and it shows or has shown that even with the best intentions, that was a lot of money and a lot of projects that needed to be delivered. Congratulations to Council for getting as much done as it has. I think it's been a tremendous effort. We look forward to the finalisation in the next 6 months or so, but it's a pretty amazing effort when, yes, it was a lot of money, but to spend it as wisely as we have, to spend it as broadly as we have, I think has been a credit to the organisation and the way they've gone about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Thank you, and quite unreal, really, just to follow on from your words, to have that amount of money and that amount of projects. I think hopefully we'll see that again sometime in the future, but I would imagine that's a long way off. But thanks very much, Councillor Meagle. Anything further, councillors, on that one?
Just a comment.
Councillor Longley.
Our multi-purpose hall project showing a negative 3% in funding. That's only a timing issue because of the Grant Football Club. They're sitting on that money at the moment, and we're working with council for them to provide an invoice and that'll balance that up.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Just one comment before I move on that recommendation. It's still as was, but on the 355 committees, I've noticed that the older committees within our Shire are still functioning and have tweaked, to try and upgrade their committees to any changes in legislation or their framework. And then we're starting to get interest with new committees and groups that will have to be across the changes and set up. So I think at the end of the day, when they're all fully functional, it'll be a fantastic thing for council, and as we've found in the past, save council lots of money with that community input. So that's fantastic.
And I think just you sort of reminded me then of another resource which has been made available so it's not like we've done those reviews and there's been no work done, because Heidi, our governance officer, let us know the other day that on our website, under the 355 committees, there's a whole range of templates, minutes, agendas and things like that they can access and still use, but agree that it's a term of reference and the delegation stuff that needs to be reconfigured. But yeah, there is some good resources already available for them to access, and some of them are using those, and some of them have got their own systems still, but
which is fantastic.
It's just great that they've been able to keep going and do that work for us. Yeah,
definitely. So I'm glad we had that initial base so that we could grow off that. Yeah. If there's anything further, councillors, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Thank you. Against? Carried.
7.6 is the Corowa Waganya Tourism Committee, sort of just a progress report update. So councillors last month heard a report and considered in principle moving forward to progress the concept of a 355 committee for tourism, specifically around Corowa itself, and the idea of bringing Waganya into the fold as well as part of a twin town thing, just like Albury Wodonga and Yarramull and all the other cross-border towns working together. So there's been several couple of meetings held since then. There's been obviously the local connections that did a bit of a media article on it. There's some interest across the river as well for further meetings on that. So we're just trying to move forward, continue to have those meetings and seek that engagement as we still continue with our strategic direction with our tourism project going forward strongly. So, but this is just an update. Council recommend to note the report, call for expressions of interest once we finalise the draft term of reference and receive a report at the next council meeting, next available council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Councillor Longmire, do you have a comment?
If I may, Mr Mayor, in regard to going forward for the further report on this matter, would it not be a timing opportunity to review our total budget expenditure in regard to, we've consolidated our tourism brand, and so underneath that at the next level, it might be a good chance to be able to, revisit our opportunity to spend our tourism dollar and see if we can have a look at that and make sure there's equality in the distribution of funding.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire. I think that would be very important at this stage. It's interesting to note when you've got different minds coming into council in relation to another committee. The conversation came up in relation to locks in the river. So, the whole tourism in this area. Initially, I thought that was a bit way out, but after very brief, but mentioning to our water minister, it went quite well, I thought, and it's something now we've got to follow up and dig in and go a bit harder with.
If I may come back with a comment, back when the new bridge was built at Federation, some of the local people said, why not put a lock there and make that opportunity east of that section or that bridge, like Lake Mulwala, a mini one, because there's an opportunity out there. I'm not discounting to the people that own the land, but certainly, it was something that is not a fantasy.
Yes, and with the amount of water there for water infrastructure, when we're talking about reservoirs and building dams, essentially it's the same thing. When you put a lock in a river, you're building a network of dams and storages. So it's something that we'll do a lot of work on in the future, I can imagine.
If I may, just to conclude that last night on a television report, it was noted that there were 27,000 dams in China. So there's an urgency along the way that we can do out here. Not that number, of course, but certainly, Sorry.
Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo Councillor Longmire's words there about having a real look at our tourism dollar, where we're spending it, and You know, I'm not saying that we're not doing it right, but it's not going to hurt to review the whole expenditure. The other thing in line with our recommendation there, the council endorses a call of expression of interest for the committee members. Obviously, council would look at putting on a councillor, or has the right to, through our 355 committee policy. But also in that, I had a person ask me of how is people from Waganya going to sit on a local government New South Wales committee. But upon checking our policy, it does allow for specialised people to be outside the LGA, which of course, when that person asked me and I replied to them with that, they said, well, how is living in Waganya specialised? I said, well, how can you give local knowledge from Corowa on Waganya? So I don't think.
It's a really good point. Even in the Urana Shire days, we had Boyer Creek, an example where right on the edge of Lockhart Shire. So there's a real lead up there in that community. It's probably still the chair of the committee because they've got the one combined committee now. And I think he himself has got land across mostly, and the same it goes at the Rand Recreation Reserve. There's some players that sit on that committee that are tied up and absolutely involved in it, but they're just because their farm might be across the river. So as long as the councillors are on it, the staff, and it comes through I've never seen anything legally where it can't be the case.
Yeah, well, no, we have got it in our policy, so I thought that was good. And echoing the comments on the lock, I guess at that first meeting we thought it was optimistic, but to see it gain as much momentum and as much support verbally through different meetings that we've had with different people, I think, you know, we're in a position to pursue it further. So it'll only be a good thing if we can keep a pedal to the metal.
Definitely.
So just on that, because it's come out of the Corowa Business Chamber, and we've had a couple of meetings, but council has never formally received anything on that. So I'll put a report through September just to see where the responsibilities are going to lie going forward with that lobbying work and those sort of things. But I think it's one of those things where it's an environment now where the questions that may have been too embarrassing to ask before should be asked and put forward on water and on all matters to make the government actually look at everything.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments there, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Well, that completes the gentleman's report. We'll move on to item 8, Director of Corporate and Community Services report.
Welcome Joe Shenton to the room.
Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, councillors. Good morning. And GM. The first report here is the financial performance report as at the 31st of July 2020. The key highlights contained in the report are that Council has $6.1 million in cash in its general fund. So that's consistent with the 21 budget that was adopted by Council last month and is where we would expect to be at the end of July. There's also $22.2 million of investments, which is in accordance with Council's investment policy. Debtors of $6 million, which is up on last month, and that's primarily because we've invoiced $2.5 million of water access and usage charges in July. The operating and capital budgets are still being loaded into our financial system, so there will be additional reporting coming along next month. So the report there at 31st of July is there for noting.
Thank you. Would someone like to move that report, please? Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments? Councillor Longmire.
Yes, can I ask Director Shannon in regard to, is there any hesitation in regard to the payments of the outstanding, or not outstanding, but the requirement of regular water charges and that so forth rates? Is there any nervousness about people paying that?
At this point in time, Councillor Longmire, we've had minimal impact from that. So some people are delaying the payments, but it hasn't been a material impact on our cash situation. There has been an extension of time with the rates first instalment that has been put in by the New South Wales government of delaying that by a month. There's also been a period of time of 6 months where the interest collected on overdue rates and charges is at 0% for 6 months. So that's also in place, which may mean that people do pay later. So we are continuing to monitor it. At this point, as at the end of July, it hasn't been a material impact, but it is something that could impact in coming months.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments here, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Aye.
Against, carried.
The next report is the summary of progress against the delivery program for the 6 months ending 30th of June 2020. So there's been some significant achievements through that period of time. There's some major community projects that are nearing completion with the Howlong Multipurpose Centre, the Corowa Swimming Pool, the All Abilities Playground, and the Urana Aquatic Centre, just to name sort of the biggest ticket items there. So they've been a key part of our delivery program for the 2020 financial year. There's also been upgrades to water and sewer infrastructure to improve our service provision and reduce the risk of service failure. And there's a range of things like a tourism branding project, and probably the highlight for me is the new comprehensive long-term financial plan that was adopted last month. So they were key initiatives contained in the program, and we've delivered on many of the items that were contained in the program. So that recommendation before you is that you review the periodic report for the period 1st of January to the 30th of June 2020 and seek clarification on any items required, and that once adopted, that the report be made available on Council's website.
Thank you. Would someone moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Thomas? Any questions or comments, Councillor? Not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Agenda item 8.3 relates to Council's public interest disclosure policy. Under the Public Interest Disclosures Act, Council is required to provide the New South Wales Ombudsman with information about public interest disclosures obligations. So we do this every 6 months. That report has now been submitted. So the recommendation before you is to note that the report has been lodged in accordance with the requirements of the legislation.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Agenda item 8.4 relates to the Federation Community Drug Action Team. $6,000 of funding has been secured to support initiatives of the Community Drug Action Team. In conjunction with that, the Rotary have donated $1,000 towards the program, and there's a $3,500 allocation within Council's 2021 budget. So that Community Drug Action Team will undertake a number of initiatives to reduce the harmful effects of alcohol and drugs within our local community. The recommendation before you is to note the report on the Federation Drug Action Team, to adopt the attached terms of reference for that committee, and to nominate a councillor to be a member of that team.
Thank you. We have a moved by Councillor Longley and seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments or nominations there, councillors? The Drug Action Team, our representative.
I'll hand it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Longley. Thank you. And by all means, if any other councillor wants to have a chat later, Councillor Wales, as someone to back up Councillor Longley as a secretary. Thank you very much. That's excellent. Would there be any further questions or comments on that?
Do you want to add that to the thing? Nominate Councillor Longley to be the member and Councillor Wales the alternative?
Yes. Excellent. Point number 4. Happy with that, mover and seconder?
With 3.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Agenda item 8.5 relates to the annual Corowa Swim-In and Military Parade. So a sponsorship proposal has been received for requesting $3,735 towards the 42nd annual Corowa Swim-In and Military Gathering, which is proposed to be held in March 2021. This event brings a number of event participants and spectators to the Corowa area over the 8 days of the event, which brings direct economic and tourism benefit to Corowa. I think this is particularly important for our local businesses and as our community recovers from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we are hopeful that by March, restrictions should have eased by that stage to enable this event to go ahead. So we are proceeding with supporting this event. The recommendation before you is to approve the event sponsorship amount of $3,735 to the Car Key Vehicle Enthusiasts Incorporated for the 42nd annual Corowa Swim-In and Military Gathering to be held in 2021.
So moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Longley. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Watchett.
Mr Mayor, it's hard to believe 12 months ago we sat here and ummed and ahed about whether we were going to sponsor this event, and as a result, the swim in for last year was again a massive event for not just the town but the district, because those people do travel to other areas of our shire, including over the river. So it's a whole district event that's happening, and now the amount of sponsorship they're asking for, I think that it fits in with our sponsorship budget. And it's probably one of the more worthy events that is a week-long event in a time that Corowa generally doesn't have a lot of people in it. So I'm very happy to support it again.
Absolutely. Councillor Wales.
Yeah, I fully support that, Mr Mayor, because it's good for our town, and I get their newsletter, so we're going to get a plug in there, but it's very good. Everyone loves to see them come here, so definitely worth them.
For sure. Councillor Longley.
I'd like to endorse Councillor Whitechurch's comments. It's not only Corowa that benefits. I've seen those military vehicles in Howlong, at the cafes, staying at the caravan park there as well. We're going to benefit here from the caravan park. As Councillor Whitechurch said, it's an all of a shire opportunity.
Excellent. And yeah, I'll endorse that as well. It's great to be involved in it, and council does have a lot of involvement with it, whether it be media, etc. So yeah, proud to be part of that. Thank you very much, councillors. If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Joe. Now we'll move on to the Director of Development and Environmental Services report.
Like coming on off the bench.
Yeah.
Fresh legs.
Yeah, that's it. Rotations.
Thank you, councillors. We've got the 3 standard reports before you this morning. So construction certificates and CDCs approved since last council meeting. I'd just like you all to note the number that we're getting through at the moment is phenomenal. We think it's due to the stimulus package, and also every person wants to build their shed. So,
That's
Need
always
their sheds.
yeah.
That's excellent. Can I have a move for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Questions or comments, councillors? Other than it's fantastic to see all that development happening. If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Carried.
Item 9.2 is the development applications approved under delegation. Happy to take any questions.
Would someone like to move that recommendation, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Longley, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Item 9.3 is the state and regional significant development applications that have been lodged. I have actually missed one in this report, and I'm very sorry. It's actually been missing for 2 months, and that is for another solar farm at Corowa. So that will be added in for next month's report. It is currently under assessment. But you will note there that the Joint Regional Planning Panel approved the other solar farm in Mulwala on the 27th of July, and we're still waiting for information on the quarry expansion at Howlong.
Excellent. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Wales. Questions or comments, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Plan update to Schedule 1. So if you'd like to go through the report, you'll see that in the last 12 months since this was updated, a lot of the projects that were actually in Schedule 1 have been completed. There's very few that weren't. So, and all those projects were actually funded through other means other than developer contributions. So we have not spent any developer contributions in the last financial year. So this financial year, I've created the new schedule, which links in with the long-term financial plan. I would like to make one addition to this, in that in the last week we have received funding for a dump point at Mulwala, and there's been no allocation in the long-term financial plan for council's contributions. So we've looked at it, and the simplest option is to include it in this schedule and have it so that we can utilise developer contributions for this facility from Mulwala.
Excellent. Can I have a move for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Thomas.
So we're just seeking inclusion of.
Inclusion of the the dump point for my whaler.
Okay, that, you happy with that move, everyone seconder?
Sorry, who seconded?
Seconded by councillor Thomas
Beautiful, thank you.
and moved by councillor Whitechurch. Yep.
So is it called a boat dump point
Yes,
at North Street Reserve?
yes.
We can put that in the minutes, Rochelle, to that detail, and then we add that to the schedule?
Yep.
Yep. In the recommendation, sorry.
Excellent. Any questions or comments on that, councillors? Councillor Whitechurch?
We asking for a comment on the dump point or on the,
Either, if you,
but, well, I can give you both if you like, Mr Mayor. I said the dump point's a great thing. So happy with that, even though we're not allowed to have houseboats, unlike my whaler as per the rules. We've now got somewhere for those houseboats that aren't allowed on there to dump their toilets. But no, I note in there that the Coromora Hall upgrade is in there for $330,000. I know that probably the biggest user of the hall, and all our halls are probably lightly used in the scope of what the magnitude, the size of them. But the Festival of Dance, which is definitely the biggest user of the hall over the week, have been putting money in to upgrade the PA system last year or the year before, and they've always been on about having the toilet facilities a little bit better if funds were available. And I see the scope of works, which I asked at our last meeting to our director, was to look at doing some work in there. So I'm sure that it'll be a welcome upgrade for certainly everybody, but in particular the Festival of Dance, who have been onto it for a while. Well done.
Thank you.
excellent. Councillor
Yeah,
Lockhart?
in the future budget of opportunity to spend money that's not without the guidelines of grant funding, I'm still not seeing a lot of adventure or forward planning in regard to our road system. And I'm talking outside the main roads. I'm talking the local roads. I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and I'll comment more on the Director of Engineering's report if I may.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that'd be great. We'll save that one for the Director of
Can I
Engineering.
just make a comment on that? So with this, we can levy for roads, but it has to be an upgrade of the road. It can't be maintenance. So if we're upgrading a road, it can be put into this schedule.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Learned something.
Would we like to include that?
I've learned that, yeah.
Well, this was taken from the first 4 years of our long-term financial plan, so the next 4 years, and they were the 3 roads, if you look at the schedule, that we're going to have upgrade works done to them, so that hence they've been listed in the schedule.
Okay. All right, and
Ready.
councillors happy with that change, addition to the recommendation?
Yeah, happy with that, Mr Mayor.
Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 9.4 is a revised local environmental plan project update. Councillors are presented to the workshop last month regarding what's happened, and this is just a process, a requirement so we can move the project forward. So the recommendation is that we request assistance from the Department of Planning, Industry and Environment to assist us in the preparation of the conversion LEP to merge the 2 documents, and that we continue with the Federation-wide strategic land use plan for the council area, utilising the funds from the merger.
Excellent.
So moved.
Meagle, and seconded by councillor Longley. Questions or comments, councillors? Not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you.
Excellent. Councillors, is it that time to have a short break for thank you? Moved by councillor Longmire and seconded by councillor Whitechurch to
Adjourn for morning
adjourn
tea.
for the morning tea. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.